Here we are back again. This is myself, Dr. Jay Smith, and my good colleague, Dr. Janasic, who is a friend for many years. We've known each other. Goodness, Daniel, how long have we known each other and worked together?
2005, so about 15, 16 years.
Yeah, that's a long time, and I'm glad that you're on board. I'm glad that you're helping us out in this MAPI program, MAPI, for Master of Arts in Polemics and Apologetics to Islam. The only one of its kind in the world, and it is housed in Veritas International University. They're in California. They're in Santa Ana, and it is basically a course that it has. Well, actually, it's an entire master's degree course that has 10 different courses within it, 36 credits. But the reason you and I are here to talk, the reason that we're here is to talk about specifically your course that's coming up on the 30th of August. 30th of August, Monday the 30th, you are going to start a new course, never been taught before. Tell us about it. What is it? What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go with it? And what would be the major themes that you're going to include?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for that introduction. Yes, this will be the history of Islam. It's numbered IS 505, and it is going to run, as Dr. Smith said, from August 30th. It's a Monday. We'll be having the lectures every Monday, 8 to 10 on Zoom, and we'll provide all that information. It'll run 8 weeks. So most of our classes are 8-week courses. They will be quick. A lot of stuff will happen during that time. Especially as you hear what I will be going over, you will see that we will cover a lot of material during that time. The history of Islam is very important because while with the historical critique, we focus on the 7th century and part into the 8th century, you need to have the whole picture of Islam to really understand how that historical critique really pursues the essence of Islam and how it comes out today. We're dealing with Muslims today, but their heritage comes from all these other years, 1400 years. And so we need to know what went on during that time. And that's where I will fill in the gap. Now we'll start with, there'll be 5 major areas that we'll be dealing with: the emergence of Islam, the consolidation of Islam, medieval Islam, and then into modern Islam. But let me go through them a little bit more succinctly. So I'd like to go ahead and share the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. So what you see is a list of the lecture topics according to the weeks. So the major part of the lectures will be focused on these different areas. Plus I will have other material that will feed into this to round it out during the week with the reading and with other videos. But you see, first of all, the week 1 that we will start with is the Near East before Islam. We need to know what's going on before Islam develops. What's happening in the end of the 6th century, into the 7th century, the setup for Islam, because this is the controversial time. And we're learning a lot of new things about this. But we're going to look at the Muslim view, and then we're going to critique it with the historical view and the biblical view. All the way through, we will be doing this. So you will get a good biblical answer to all these different aspects. So week 1, we'll be looking at the religions of late antiquity, see where Christianity and Judaism and Zoroastrian fit in to the development of Islam. Arabia before Islam, the early 7th century. We'll give a quick overview because Dr. Smith's course on origins really fills in a lot of this information. I'm just going to kind of position the material so that you understand what else is going on. And we'll look at some of the oral literature from the non-Muslim point of view at this time and the origin of Arabic writing. We'll look at some theories about that. Okay, on week 2, you have the emergence of Islam, 600 to 750. This is a very important period because this really is the time that Islam developed, and into the early 8th century, into the Abbasid period. This is when you have all of these stories written about Muhammad and the biography and the development of Islam, the explanation of the Quran. So we need to know what's going on. We'll look at Muhammad from the Muslim perspective, from the historical critique, and also from the biblical viewpoint. All the way into the Rashidun, the four supposed caliphs after Muhammad. We'll deal with that. And then we'll look at what I really enjoy, the formation of Islam, the theories that took place, especially going into intermediate monotheism, where we'll highlight people like Abdul Malik, his governor al-Hajjaj. What were their roles in the development of Islam? And then we'll look at the various neo-revisionists and their views, because they play a large part into what we understand Islam is today because of how it developed in the past. So in week 3, we'll look at some of the controversies between the Quran and Islam and Christianity. We'll also deal with some of the Muslim polemics and apologetics of that time. We'll look at John of Damascus. We'll look at Leo III. We'll look at some of these early debates and what they were debating, because it really does show what was going on during this time of the early controversies. And of course, we've got to cover the Umayyad period. We'll just be looking at the main people involved and the main events so that you understand the foundations and the expansion of the politics, because this is really what happened with Islam. It's more of a political religion than it is a theological one, but all of that mixes in together, and we'll look at some of the reasons for that. And in week 4, we'll look at the consolidation of Islam, 750 to 1000. This is very important because this is the Abbasid revolution. This is where a lot of these things were written, the biographies of Muhammad, the hadith, so many of the stories, so much of the development of the Islamic law, the development of the process of dimitude, where Muslims put down Christians and Jews and put them into a second-class citizenship. And we'll look at some of the Islamic theology as it was developing and also falling apart. In week 5, we'll look at medieval Islam, another fascinating area, 1000 to 1500 AD. We'll look at some of the characteristics of that period, but especially the different groups, how Sufism developed, the difference between the Sunni Muslims and the Shiite Muslims, and why that developed. But my favorite area in this particular period is dealing with the so-called Islamic Golden Age, because we'll find that even though this is where Muslims say science and medicine were developed to a great degree because of Islam, we'll find that there is a very different story that comes out. But we do have philosophy thriving at that time, but for different reasons that you usually hear. We know that Aristotle's works were translated into Arabic, mostly by Christian writers and translators, but that had a great effect on Islam at that time. But then in the 12th century, with Al-Ghazali and others, you had a closing the Muslim mind. And very much you see that closing still taking place even today. The effects have been tremendous and devastating for Islam. In week 6, we'll look at Islam against the world. We'll focus on the Crusades, because this is a period that is very much misunderstood, misrepresented, and we need to get a clear picture of what was going on both sides, the Muslim viewpoint and, of course, the Christian viewpoint. We'll take a brief overview of the history of jihad and the history of Christian-Muslim relations during this time, and the sweep of the Mongols coming across and what they did to change Islam during this period of time. In week 7, we'll look at modern Islam from 1500 to the present, and we need to understand some of these different movements and dynasties, the Safavid, Empire, the Mughal Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and how it ended in the early 20th century, and what that meant for Islam to lose the caliphate. We'll look at this question, which is very, very important today, the Palestinian dilemma. Whose land is it? Does it belong to the Arabs and the Palestinians, or does it belong to the Israelis? Do they have a greater claim? There's a big controversy, and we'll look at both sides. And then finally, week 8, we'll look at Islam in the rest of the world, Islam in the 21st century. We'll look briefly at what's going on, some of the contributing factors, because we do have a course that goes into that in much greater detail that you will take at another time. And then we'll look at fundamentalism and terrorism, and you'll have a much better understanding of why these factors are at play today because of what you see from the history, the 1400 years of jihad and suppression and oppression from the Muslim side. And then we'll look at the way forward. What can we do? What are our perspectives? Even though all the way through we'll be looking at the biblical perspective in contrast to Islam, at this point we will try to summarize it and tie it all together. So 1400 years in 8 weeks, and we'll look at the highlights, but we will focus in on some very important aspects that will help you understand Islam much better so that you can deal with Muslims and reach out to them with a greater understanding. That's what I have for the course.
Great. This is exciting. This is going to be a course I think everybody needs to take. I think mainly because we just are unaware of the whole last 1400 years, how Islam has expanded, where it came from, where it's going, and why it's so pivotal today. Remember, a fifth of all people on earth are Muslim. They're close to 2 billion Muslims in the world. They may be the largest religion in another 30 years. And if that is the case, we're all going to have to know about them, who they are, and where they came from. Daniel, you're going to be doing that. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of how you can actually register, this is a course for a master's degree level. That means it's an accredited course. We have been accredited for over a year. This is the 6th course that we're teaching in this master's degree program. Daniel will be the teacher. I will be there as well, accompanying him, but he will be the one who will be the lecturer. I will only be there to help out in the Q&A period, just to give Daniel a break here and there, and also to be able to get a more rounded out picture. What's fascinating is we have found that many of you want this course, but you don't necessarily want it for credit, and that's perfectly understandable. So we have 2 other categories which you can use if you don't want to do it for credit, because if you do it for credit, you have to write papers, you have to take a test, you have to be reading, you have to write about the readings, and you have to participate in the discussions through the week, which is an awful lot of work. Some of you, however, don't really care about all that. You don't need to have a degree. You don't want to go for a master's. You can audit it. And if you audit it, that means you just sit in on the lectures and you get the PowerPoints. So you can sit in on the lectures, or you can get the recordings, because every lecture will be Zoom webinared. Though you are in Timbuktu or in Indonesia or in Africa or wherever you are, you can be watching it live, or if you are fast asleep, like you over in Hong Kong while we're doing the lectures, because the lectures are from 8 to 10 Monday nights, East Coast time. We didn't say that beforehand, because just so you know, all of our courses are always on Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. East Coast time, not West Coast, not Mountain, not Central time. This is East Coast time, United States. We have to do that because the majority of our students are here in the United States, and because of the fact that we have the school itself is in California. So we have to accommodate the school's timing, which is Pacific time. Now, some of you will be fast asleep during that time, especially you Europeans, or those of you who are in Western Asia. For you people, don't worry about it. We will be recording. Every one of these lectures gets recorded and then gets sent to you the very next day. You get sent it along with the PowerPoints. everything Daniel is going to be teaching, he will have PowerPoints to follow it. And many of you want those PowerPoints because this is the material you can use in the future. This is the material that you can take if you're in ministry or if you are engaging with Muslims on the ground. You want to be able to show them and show yourself, show your friends what and how Islam began, where it came from, and where it's been going for the last 1400 years. You need these PowerPoints. If you do it for audit, you will get a certificate of audit, and that you have to pay $280 for the entire course for all 8 lectures. Those of you, however, who don't really want to get it for audit, you just want it for personal enrichment. And there's quite a few of you I know who want it for personal enrichment. You just want to learn the material and you just want the PowerPoints like the audits and like the master's students. If that's all you want, then you will not be a part of Populi. You cannot go up on Populi and participate in the discussions like the audit students can and like the master's degree students can. Nonetheless, you will still get all the lectures. You can be live there when the lectures are going on as Daniel is teaching it. You can participate in the Q&A in those live lectures. But the next day, you will receive them, like the others, on a MailChimp email that'll come to you. And then you can watch it at your heart's content whenever you are awake or whenever you decide that you want to watch it. And that's the advantage of this course. So it's 3 different tiers. The top tier are the master students. Now, for those who are going for the master's degree, you will get credited. If you do the work, you will have to pay an awful lot more because this is a master's course. And it's a 3-credit course. You have to pay $320 per credit. So it's about $960 for the entire course. Once you finish that course, then you go to the next course. And there are 10 courses that will be training up, teaching you up. Some of you already are involved. Now, Daniel, this is for Christians alone. And this is something that has caused a little bit of anger in the past. Every one of these courses that we're teaching in MAPI, Masters of Arts in Polemics and Apologetics in Islam, are for Christians. Why? Because this is a seminary. This is not a secular school. And because it's a seminary, we can only teach Christian students. I know some of you will get angry. I know some of the atheists and the humanists who want to learn this material will say, well, what about us? We're very sorry. It is out of our hands. We're not permitted to teach others who do not belong to the faith of Christianity, which means you have to believe that Jesus is God, that Jesus did die on the cross and rise again for your sins. And you have to be able to sign that statement of faith. For those of you who are Muslims, you probably want to join in this as well. Our apologies, because we have said it in the past, we'll have to continue to say it. It is only for Christian students and primarily for students who are going to engage with Muslims, hopefully around the world. Many and most of our students, hasn't that been the case, Daniel, have been missionaries or people who are in ministry or people who just want to engage with their people in their family or with their neighbors, or they want to engage with Muslims on the street, and they need this material. This is the only institute I'm aware of, Daniel, maybe you know of others, which actually teaches both Islamic apologetic, which is defend the faith, and polemics, which is to go on the offense. In this case, the offense would be against Islam. This is the only school that is willing to teach something of this nature. And we're finding everybody wants this material. Back to you, Daniel. What more can you say about this, or how should they get ready, and what should they do now? Because it starts on August the 30th. That's Monday, the August the 30th. They only have a number of days to get ready. They need to actually register. How do they register for this course?
Okay, you will need to go to the Veritas site. And what is the email for?
It's right here at the bottom of the screen. You're going to see it here. There it is. And so to get it, you need to go right to the bottom of the screen. And it's info, as you can read, at ves.edu. There you can see it. That's all you need to do. You need to email the registrar at info@ves.edu. It's as simple as that. And they will send you all of the material you need to use. They will send you a brochure. They will send you also a syllabus for the course. You'll be able to see everything that Daniel has just gone through, the books that you're going to have to read. Also, for those of you who are taking it for credit, the syllabus will unpack what you have to do as far as not just reading, but also taking a test and writing an essay. Now, obviously, you do need to register. You cannot just come in this class because this is all being taught by Zoom webinar. And in order to get the meeting ID and also to get the password, you have to be registered for the course, whether that means for an academic credit or for audit or for personal enrichment. You need to read through the material that they're going to send you, and you decide at which level you would like to take this course. And the registrar will be in contact with you. Daniel, is there anything else that we need to say or anything else that you'd like to say?
Well, thank you for covering that very important aspect. And I would encourage everyone who is interested to do it quickly, as soon as possible, especially if you are signing up for the MA program, because that will take longer unless you're already part of the program. But they need to have more paperwork. They need to verify your undergrad degree and other things like that. Whereas if you're auditing, or if you are the personal enrichment student, it will take less information, but you still need to do it quickly so you can get on the roll and get all the information that you need. Time is short, and so we want you to get that in as quickly as possible.
Listen, we'd love to see you there. It'll be great to engage with you. It'll be great to have you on board. It'll be great to see you and also to hear your questions and to have the discussions. That's August the 30th to October the 18th. From August the 30th to October the 18th. 8 weeks of lectures from our good man over here, Dr. Daniel Janasic. God bless you. This is Daniel and Jay here on the East Coast of the United States. Over and out.